the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse wants to stop money allocated for SAA's business rescue from being paid to the airline subsidiaries. 2.7 billion rand has been earmarked for the subsidiaries. Outa will file a submission with Parliament's Standing Committee on Appropriations to halt the process. Well, to tell us more about this and what it means for us, let's chat now to Outa Chief Legal Officer Stephanie Fix. Stephanie, a very good morning. Thanks so much for your time. So let's talk about the why. Why are you calling for this process to be halted?
I think firstly it's about, this 2.7 billion was allocated to SAA. So what we do not understand is, why is this now given to the subsidiaries if this money was needed in terms of the business rescue plan? So we all know that, in terms of the business rescue plan, 10.5 billion rand was needed in order to get SAA, sort of functioning and trying to save the national airline. 7.8 billion rand was already given. So, logic dictates that this 2.7 billion is still needed for the business rescue plan. So to what extent, was the agreements reached in the business rescue because this 2.7 billion will still go to SAA? But now we are a bit unclear. Do they want to use SAA as a conduit to give the money to the subsidiaries? Or is it going to be paid directly to the subsidiaries? But be that as it may, doesn't it make sense that one has to go look at the financial situation of the subsidiaries and maybe consider business rescue for them instead of pumping just more money into a failing SOE.
So what do you suspect is actually happening here? I mean, Outa saying that due process was not followed in diverting these funds. So if we're to look at what you just said, then do you suspect then that this is yet another way to help out the larger entity, but making it look like you're helping the smaller ones?
In all honesty, I do think that the subsidiaries need money. I think Mango hasn't filed any financials. We all know that SA Technical, I think they would need something like 1.6 billion rand. So it's an enormous amount of money. What he does say is that the subsidiaries is also in financial trouble. But instead of diverting some of the funds that were supposed to be used for SAA to the subsidiaries, let's apply our minds to firstly, can we afford to save these three subsidiaries? Do we need them? Do we? Because there's going to be another bailout. My logic tells me that if in order for SAA to come out of business rescue, 10.5 billion was needed, and you're going to use some of that for the subsidiaries, then I'm afraid that somewhere along the line, and if we don't get an equity partner, that it's going to need another bailout. So it's really about what is the intent, and should we not really look hard at the fact, do we need airships? Do we need SA Technical? Do we need Mango?
So what happens if these subsidiaries don't get this money or this lifeline? I mean, we're also looking at the other side of this, Stephanie. We're looking at people who will lose their jobs. Are we not concerned then about the loss of jobs if this money doesn't go there?
Always. I think South Africa's financial situation is not great. There are an enormous amount of people that, lost their jobs. And of course, we can't sit here and say, look at this just objectively. One has to consider that there are human lives behind this. So it is an extremely difficult weighing up process, and to talk about other people's lives this is not something that I feel comfortable about. But one has to look at where does the finances come from in order to bail out unsuccessful SOEs. That takes money away from education, which is also necessary. Our health and our health industry, we're going through a pandemic. We need money there. We have an unemployment rate that is skyrocketing. I like to think that although they may lose their jobs, that will create, if government creates more job opportunities, that there will be opportunities for them in other spaces, because you're going to give the private sector an opportunity to run airlines, and so forth. So I do think that if you put your mind to it, that it's not about making sure that, if you do not bail out Mango, that people are necessarily going to lose their jobs. I think if you think carefully about it, it will create so many other opportunities. And specifically for the people in a failed SAE. What will happen ultimately is, and what we've seen with SAA, people in any case lost their jobs. They tried to, some of the money that SAA asked for was to, to pay severance packages. And I just think that there will be opportunities if we reprioritize where we spend our money.
All right. Now, you've written to Minister Pravin Gordhan. You've also written to Treasury as well as Outa, saying that you intend to object to this process if the funds are, should not be allocated. And you're hoping to get some kind of response. How hopeful or confident are you that you can halt this process, that it can be stopped now?
Well, the process, that's why we didn't contemplate any legal action now, because there is a process. Parliament must have the opportunity to look at submissions. Submissions closes on Friday. There can be presentations. So this process must continue. We have our constitution and we have our processes, and this is part of the democratic country. So to run off to court will just not be the right procedure to follow now. But once the submissions, are made and so forth, and depending on then the decision of Parliament, that holds, they have an enormous job and shoes to fill in terms of looking after constitutional rights and doing what they're supposed to do in terms of the Constitution. So we can only hope that they will take everything into consideration and make the right decision.
All right. Outa Stephanie Fick, thanks very much for that. We'll watch the process with a deadline there till the end of the week. Thanks very much. Still on the